Hi, I'm thrilled to spend a few minutes and share with you my excitement for our new line of Décor Stencils. Even though it's a small line, I think it's quite diverse, and we have plans to grow the offering as often as possible. You know, stencils have been around for a long time, but they haven't been with Stampin' Up's art. I believe we have great art that deserves to be large and on walls, and in any shade of color you like. Here, I've stenciled a bedroom wall with a large Kind Thoughts stencil, using a sponge roller and acrylic paint. It's so easy. Let me show you. First, I'm using one of our stamp set cases, and I put a little bit of paint in. I might need a little bit more, so we'll add a little bit more. Close the lid, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of the paint and work it into my brush and then work it off of the case. And the reason I'm using the case is because if I need to step away for a few minutes, then the paint won't dry as quickly because acrylic paint does dry very, very quickly. Now as I come over to the wall, you'll notice that I am using stencil tape to hold my stencil in place. You can use repositionable spray adhesive for the fine details. I prefer to use tape most of the time. Now I am applying, as I said, very, very little paint on the brush. I'm working most of it actually off onto the case because I don't want a lot. And then I'm just going to start to work the color in, and you can see that even though it's just one color, I'm getting some shading because I'm going over some of the same spots twice, and of course my brush will have different amounts of ink on it. And the fun thing about stenciling is that there's no perfect way to stencil. It's kind of like stamping. You just have fun with it and keep working it in. Every image that you do on your wall will be slightly different, and you want that. That's kind of the diversity that you need. Just like fabric, it's never exactly the same, and it's what makes it unique. And I'm thinking that I don't want a huge texture on this. So what I'll do, maybe go over a few spots. Oh, I'm going to lose my brush. Okay, snap that back on. I'll go over a few spots. Now, as I look at this, I probably should have used a little bit of spray adhesive just behind these two because they've moved a tiny bit, but I'm just going to brush very carefully over it, and it will probably be a very light design. But once again, doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And the nice thing about stenciling, unlike stamping, is that I can pull this off and look at the image, and it looks like it's going to be just fine, but if I didn't have the exact look that I wanted, I could just put the stencil right back on and go again. But I like that. I like the diversity of that design. Now, you're going to maybe want to, once you've decided that you've got this in the center of your wall, or if you start in the edge, it doesn't really matter, but you may want to take it and stencil some cardstock. And then play with the design and see how far apart you want your image to be. Do you want your pattern to be farther away or closer? That's up to you, but that's how I decide how close my pattern is just by fake or mocking this, all right? So once you've done that, you wonder, how do I place my stencil every time to keep from going downhill? You might choose to mark or measure the placement of your stencil. I choose the eyeball method most of the time. If you want to make sure that you're staying level and that the space between the wall, the design and your floor are somewhat consistent, then I just take a tape measure and go to the top of the baseboard and then go to the bottom of the stencil on both sides of the stencil, left and right, and make sure that they're the same distance, and then that keeps me from going downhill or uphill. Next, in my formal dining room, I use the Parisian damask stencil and stencil creams, which are my favorite type of paint, to create an elegant and impressive look. And while it's a little more time-consuming than the last example I showed you, it's still very, very easy. I'll position my stencil. Now, I have sprayed some adhesive on the back of this one because there are a couple of fine lines that I want to be attached to the wall pretty well. And again, I'm using my case, and I have mixed 3 different colors of stencil creams, including a shimmering gold to get the shade of color that I want. And I'm applying the paint with the lightest color first, and once again, not using very much paint at all. And I'll just start to blend in the paint. As I said, you'll start with the lightest color first, and I'm going in a circular motion just to make it a little smoother. You can stipple it and pounce it, and I'm doing a circular motion. You'll notice that I've got a different look just with the one color. And as I said, it takes just a little bit longer, but wait till you see the end result. Just beautiful. You don't need a whole lot. And if you do happen to get more on your brush than you want, it's not that big of a deal to just sit and work it out, because it is so smooth and creamy, and it does take longer to dry. Then it's not like see, like I've got a lot there, but that's okay. I'll work it around the rest of my image because it won't dry as fast as acrylic. And the thing I love about this is I feel like an artist, because I'm feeling like I'm just painting a mural here. And as I said, with all stenciling, you don't want every image to be the same. As I stand back in my dining room, I have completely different looking flowers. Each image is slightly unique, and you want that. Okay, so you can see there's already some difference in shading. I'm going to use a different brush for the darker color, and it is fairly dark. I want maybe a little bit more shading, and the fun thing is that you can just sit there and play with it until you get the look that you want. Where I have quite a bit of shading with just the one color, I'm not too concerned. I've got quite a bit there, so I'm going to work that a little bit more. Okay. And then I want to add a little bit of shimmering gold. And the nice thing about the gold, at least it will cover up all of your paint, so you only want to dab a little bit on and work it in. But the nice thing about it is, as depending on the light, and you won't be able to see it, but just trust me on this. Depending on the light, you get a real shimmery look, and my sons-in-laws have come into my formal dining room and just commented, depending on how you're looking, you see a nice gold shimmer. Now, the stencil paints do take a little longer to dry. Well, a lot longer to dry, but they're so easy to blend, so very easy to blend. And once the main image is dry, or almost dry, maybe partially dry. If you're careful, you can do it right after. I did my whole wall, one right after the other. But I would recommend that you do all of your solids and then come back and put the two-step portion over your image, just like that. And I'll come back with my darkest color and fill in and get the detail over the top of the bolder part of the image. And as you can tell, as I said, it's not as quick as the other one, but it's going to be a beautiful look, and to me, it's therapeutic. I listened to one of my favorite musicians while I did my dining room wall, and I was just lulled away almost, and I was relaxed. It was therapeutic for me. And I got quite a bit of paint on that one, so I want to take from that and move it around. Now I missed one down here. I think I've got them all. Once again, if I pull it off and it's not exactly what I want, then I can put it back on. But I think it looks really nice. And while stenciling looks fantastic on walls, you can actually stencil on just about anything using a variety of products, like a tote bag, a lampshade, a clay pot, a wood vase, a hat box. The list goes on and on. And finally, stencils can be combined with your stamps and inks for a great look. I created this album and scrapbook spread using the small Kind Thoughts stencil. Stencils add dimension to your cards and other paper crafts as well. I love stenciling. And now that you caught a glimpse of the excitement I feel for stenciling, I hope you're starting to share my enthusiasm. It's an ideal way to combine personal creativity with color coordination to ensure that your home reflects your own flair and style. You can start your own stenciling adventures by contacting your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. You can either phone her, email her, or place an order online by going to her demonstrator website. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, visit www.stampinup.com and click on the Find a Demonstrator button at the top of the page. You'll be creating your own stencil masterpieces before you know it.